We've had a lot of great economic news this week. We have the Exchequer returns in, they're looking very good. The jobs front unemployment is down again, you're close to bringing it under 10%. I know you don't pay attention too much to the polls, but why do you think that that's not translating into support for the government at the moment?
Well, first of all, the economic figures are very encouraging. They're very heartening. Obviously, unemployment down from over 15 down to just over 10%. Expect we'll break through to the nines later on in the year. Tax returns very strong. But as I made the point in Castlebar last weekend, see, the effect of a rising economy hasn't been felt by everybody and is not being felt by everybody. So the challenge for the government for the time ahead is to secure that recovery and build on it in a way that you can actually demonstrate that it does have a beneficial impact on all families in all areas of the country. And clearly there are big challenges in there in terms of, the remaining capital infrastructure that's got to go in so that you can do business professionally from all parts of the country. So it's the first time, though, in quite a number of years where you've actually been able to see people have a modest increase in their take-home pay. And from that point of view, we've set out in fulfilling the mandate that the people gave us to fix our public finances and put the country back to work, not to put taxes on jobs, not to put taxes on work, and not to increase income tax. So it's a good start, but it's coming after 4 or 5 very difficult years. So the challenge now is to manage that competently and not let it slip back.
Do you think that's why ultimately the government isn't seeing the sort of level of support in the polls that it might expect in a situation where the economy is growing?
You're a year out from a general election, and people answer questions when they're asked questions in polls and that kind of thing. I'd say later on in the year they're going to begin to really focus on what is happening here. Have this crowd actually been in a position to deliver the job that I asked them to do? And the job that the people asked us to do was to fix our public finances and put the people back to work. And I think that we should learn lessons from other countries. Those hard-won gains can be lost very easily. There will be no complacency from government. There won't be any capacity to meet all the demands that people have. So it's a case of having made good progress and build on that for the future.
Okay. Give me 3 priorities you've got now for the next 14 months before the next election.
Well, first of all, get our deficit below 3%, go for full employment by 2018, and spread the benefits throughout the country.
What does spread the benefits throughout the country mean?
It means that people in Donegal or West Kerry or Wexford or Laois can have the same opportunity to have work and employment in their own place. It means that you have to meet the broadband challenge. It means that you have to work to deal with all the inadequacies of service in water, communications and roads. But essentially, the more people you have at work, the more they can contribute to their own local economy, dignity, independence of a job and all of that. So that's where it is. That's the continuation of the remit that people gave us.
Where do you want the unemployment to be by the time you go to the country next year?
Well, I'd expect it to breach, to be well down in the 9s by the end of this year. Obviously there are external issues that you have no control over. But from our own point of view, the line of investment into the country is very strong. Exports are now very strong. The oil situation has reduced energy costs in that sense, and the decision of the European Central Bank gives us an advantage in terms of the weakening of the euro against both the pound and the dollar, which is good for exports and also very good for the hospitality sector. So I'd like to see hospitality, the construction sector and the retail industry are 3 areas where we can clearly make very significant advances in terms of employment.
Tell me why you're worth it.
I don't take myself seriously. Mine is a public salary. Obviously my job is a unique challenge given to few people since the foundation of the state to lead a government, and the scale of the challenge that we undertook was unprecedented. So that's where my focus is, and I go at this every day with a very strong remit to build on that challenge. So,
but what do you say to people who you earn too much?
Well, sure, they will judge me the same as they judge everybody else. My salary is a public salary, it's the same as anybody else's, cut by 40%. So it's a well-paid job. Yeah. I try to do the best I can.
Would you take another pay cut if you were asked?
Of course, the same as anybody else.
Okay. I want to talk as well about Micheál Martin, the Fianna Fáil leader, has been consistently challenging you to a live one-on-one TV debate in recent months. Are you going to take up his challenge?
No, I don't think Micheál Martin is the leader of the opposition at all. I wouldn't say to him that at this stage that we would give him coverage by having one-to-one debates. I'll tell you this though, when the election is called, and it will be called in 12 months' time, we'll have plenty of opportunity for debates with all of the opposition leaders, or those who purport to be leaders.
Will you debate him one-on-one though, in a general election situation?
What is the opposition at the moment? It's a disparate group of the Fianna Fáil party, the Sinn Féin party, the Socialist group, the hard left, independents.
But he's the leader of the main opposition party. They have the most in terms of Dáil numbers.
Well, we'll decide on the nature of the Dáil debates when the election is called, or the leaders' debates. In fact, on the last occasion, I think we had 3 leaders' debates, and one of those was at my own request that it would be in Irish, because all of the leaders were able to speak Irish, which was a first, I think, in Irish politics. So, I said to Micheál, you have plenty of opportunity to give your opinions every day, but as for leaders' debates, we'll have no problem dealing with leaders' debates in whatever context they're going to be held when the election is called.
Would that include one-on-one circumstances with, say, Micheál or Gerry Adams?
Well, that's a matter for decision. I don't have a problem in debating the issues of the day. It's my responsibility to lead the government and to say what government has been doing and to defend that. I see across the water in the British election now, they're having one debate with all the leaders. There are
David Cameron's been very heavily criticised for that, though.
Yeah, but like every time you have an election, you have different. All of the opposition groupings and those who lead the opposition groups all want one-on-one debates. So, like between this and then, I'm sure there'll be different propositions put forward. But obviously, I will be very happy to defend the government's record and put that to the people on the basis of where I want the country to be, where I believe that we can be, and that we shouldn't let that slip back into what happened before.
You were quoted, I think, in 2007 as saying that you were against same-sex marriage. Now, of course, you spoke very eloquently about it last week or 2 weeks ago in your conference speech. What changed your mind?
Well, I'm entitled to change my mind as same as anybody else. I think our society has evolved to a point now where this is an issue that the people will be asked to decide on the 22nd of May. It's about marriage, it's about respect and dignity and compassion and love and understanding. So I believe that our country is one that is tolerant and that will support this strongly. But of course, in a referendum, you have to have the approval and the endorsement of the people. So I've seen society evolve over the last many years in many ways, and obviously having engaged with members of the gay community, I think this is the time for the question to be answered by the people, and I will strongly support it and urge everybody else to do so. So I think it's a case of recognising that Ireland has moved on, and this is one area where we need to have the approval and the endorsement of the people, and I hope they support it strongly. Yeah.
One of your ministers said to me recently that between this stance on same-sex marriage, on legislating for the X case, your landmark speech on the Cloyne report, you had established yourself now as probably the most liberal Taoiseach we've ever had in this country. What do you say to that?
I don't like those kind of tags, actually. I think politics is about making decisions. It's about people and about making decisions that affect their lives. In the X case, you had a situation where no government for 20 years faced into dealing with the matter. It's now dealt with. The Cloyne speech and the Cloyne situation was one that had become completely intolerable, had been swept under the carpet for decades, no more than the Magdalens or now the mother and baby homes investigation. These are things that were left aside. So I think it's a case of having the courage to be clear about the decisions that one has to make here. And that's for the betterment of our society and our people. And I think the relationship between church and state is actually much healthier and stronger now as a consequence of having dealt with that in an upfront fashion, and having all of the reports come through, and the referendum on children and children's rights, the setting up of a Department of Children, the appointment of a senior Minister for Children. These are all complicated areas, but they define us as a nation in many ways, in that family is very important for Ireland, very important in Ireland. Children are obviously the priority of any family situation, and because of our immigrant status over many centuries, it's part of our personality. So in a country where we were dominated by church for so many years, to the point where all of this suppressed and frustrated, people were there with very serious stories to tell. I think it's been a very healthy thing to lance that, to bring it out into the open, and to have dealt with it up front.
I mean, when you made that speech on Cloyne, I mean, it's interesting what you're saying. When you made that speech on Cloyne, were you aware of the kind of the earthquake it would cause, I guess, in kind of church-state relations?
Well, if you look at the position of Taoiseach who went before me, they were in a very different place in relation to the church. But this is something that was coming for a long time. I mean, some of the stories that I'd heard myself, and that I'd met people who told me these things were quite horrific, and obviously deal with it. As I say, I think the relationship between the church and the state is much stronger and healthier now.
Would you consider yourself a Liberal Taoiseach?
What I'd like to think is that as head of government, we haven't been afraid to deal with issues that need to be dealt with. Government is about understanding. It's also about decisiveness and making decisions in the interests of the people. Because who am I but a servant of the people, the same as anybody else, except that you happen to have the privileged position of being head of government. But it's not a place to be complacent about. It's not a place that you can just lift your oars. There is always an enormous set of challenges to be dealt with, and that requires bringing maybe people of different views together and say, in the interests of our people and our country, this is what we need to do.
Oh, you've been Fine Gael leader since 2002, Taoiseach since 2011. What ultimately do you want your legacy to be? Do you think about that?
I don't actually.
Alan Kelly talks about it quite a lot. I mean,
no, I don't. I take my job very seriously. I don't take myself seriously. I don't have any views on legacy, but what I do want to see is that the challenge that the people gave us is fulfilled. Because see, at the end of the day, it is all about people. Have you met anybody who said to you in your own office here, like, the excitement of having a job, of being awarded a job, your value, your worth, and everything else? I remember speaking to Father Peter McVerry a number of years ago, and he was dealing with some very, very difficult cases. And he said to me, at the end of the day, for everybody, it is about self-esteem and self-worth. Even if it's only a little piece of paper that says, I completed this task, or I did that. But for me, like, I'm so proud of Ireland, and every time I have the privilege of going abroad, I look at the way people look at us now as an island nation. And for so many years, we went and fought the wars of other countries. We built other countries. We built other economies and cities. And I said, time now to roll up our sleeves and sort out our own country, which I hope are doing. And that at the end of this government's remit, people will decide if they want to re-elect us. And where I want the country to be in a few years' time is in a position where we'll never go back to the kind of bad old days that we had, based on speculation, greed, and waste of money and all of that. So you can really set us up as a point where you can demonstrate just what a small country where government and people work together can do. You can't really do it unless you have, economic and political stability, because that brings investment and confidence and therefore jobs. Okay.
If Fine Gael is re-elected, as I'm sure you hope they will be next year, do you intend to serve a full second term?
Oh, I would, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd go the full.
But I wouldn't be. You can't be smart about this. As I say, people with the pen, and it's still the pen Louis in this country, they make the decision. If they decide to re-elect the government, I happen to be head of that government, I'd be very happy to serve a full term. Yeah.
Some speculation, well, not speculation, but kind of chatter in political circles about maybe running for president someday. Have you any interest in that?
No.
No?
None.
What will you do when you finish politics?
Well, I've got my wife and 3 children, and we're a very happy family. And obviously, as time moves on, you reflect on these things more and more and how important they are to you. So I'm sure there are lots of things that I'd like to do, and lots of places that I might like to go and see. And maybe, sometimes sit and think about where we've come from.